Hello everyone, my name is Logan, and today I'm going to be starting the first ever coding tutorial on my new channel. I'm going to be trying to grow this channel pretty much for many years to come. Keep posting fire coding tutorials. Today we're going to be coding a hub core for you guys. Not a lot of people know how to do these, and I figured why not? So let's get right into it. So the first thing what I like to do when I start a hub core is I basically just make the project here, go in the pond.xml. I add these repositories right here, and these dependencies, which this is Spigot 1.8. We're going to be making this for the 1.8 version of Minecraft. And then lumblock here is when we use it. I'll mention it again, but right now it's just basically here. What it'll do is it's basically a util that we can use to make getters and setters. And if you guys want a full-on Java tutorial, maybe in the future, leave that in the comments. I'll definitely keep note of that. I'll definitely do that in the future. Alright, so in the main class, extends Java plugin, obviously. So then down here, what we're gonna do register events. Sorry, wrong area. Not right here. Gonna put that here, and then we're also gonna do initiate managers. Alright, so now we have the two functions. Now let's actually create the functions. We're going to make it a private because it's only going to be accessible in this class. So private void initiate managers. And then let's make another function called private void register events. Alright, so we have two functions made now. These functions are going to be the main functions. One is going to register the events, so plugin. These are the managers, such as command managers. We'll do it right now. We'll do new command manager. This hasn't actually been made yet, but we're about to make that right now. So we right click on here, do Java class, and here's a quick tip for you guys. You can do managers, make the package, do dot, and then command manager will be the class. So it'll be like 2 in 1 pretty much. And yeah, what I'm gonna do here, I'm gonna create a private instance of the main class. This is what I like to do pretty much at the top of all of my classes. I'm going to create a constructor now, add a main into the parameters of the constructor. We're going to initiate main now, so we don't get any null pointers exceptions. You have to do this. And now what we're going to do, we're going to create a private function, because this is only going to be accessible in this class, of course. It's going to be called a register commands. We're not actually going to put anything here yet, but we're going to go here, and we're going to pass this function in the constructor. Once we do that, we can then go back to the main class, and then we can import command manager, like so. And then events, we actually have not made any events yet, but we're going to do so very soon. So right now, we're going to, what I like to do, what I used to do, is use @getter, right? I should actually have to update the POM because I just put this in. And let me import getter. And then I usually do public static main instance. Like, I'm just gonna put this here because there might be some occasions that we use this. @getter, it'll basically make it so we can do main.getInstance. That's basically what it means. It just gets an instance of the main class. So then in on enable function, we're going to initiate the instance, so it's not null, just like we did in the command manager. And then when the plugin shuts down, we're going to do instance equals null. So just, yeah, okay. So now what we're going to do is we're going to go back here. We're going to go Java class. We're going to create another package called listeners and make another event called random listeners. It's just going to be a bunch of basic listeners for the hub core. Also, I forgot to mention at the beginning that this series or this episode is not only going to be like the whole, like, it's only going to be one specific part of it, of a hub core basically. There'll be multiple episodes to this, so if you like this one and want to continue, I'm sure there'll be more by the time you watch this actually. So just go down in the description or in the playlist and you can see there. Also, sorry if I'm a bit like mumbly and not talking right. It's kind of my first episode, so I'll definitely get better as we go on. Alright, so as you saw what I just did there, I implement listeners and imported it as org.bucket.event. So now what I'm going to do is create another private instance of the main class, because we'll most definitely do that in the future. And then we're going to do public random listeners. Also, you can name this listener class anything you want. I just named it random listeners because that's what I usually do, and the name really doesn't matter. And then we're just going to do the same thing we did with the command manager, initiate it. Alright, so now what we're going to do, we're basically just going to do some random events that all pretty much hub cores need. So what we're going to do, add event handler, start the event, we're going to do public void on player drop item, and then player drop item event, import that. We're just going to name it event. Okay, and then what we're going to do, we're just going to do event.setCanceled true. That'll basically make it so they cannot drop any items, because we don't want them to do that, of course. And then we're going to do another event. We're going to make a public void on block break event. And then we're going to do event. I don't think I imported that. Always import your events and everything. So what we're going to do here is we're going to do player. You don't need to create a player variable for this, but I just like to, because it simplifies our lives a little bit. So we're going to do if player, shadow, you can do that. If player does not have permission node that has permission. So what we just did here is we made a player event.getPlayer, and then we're basically saying if they do not have the permission node, let's just make it YouTube hubcore.admin. So if they don't have it, we're gonna event.setCanceled. That'll basically make it so only our operators and people who have this specific permission node can place blocks in the server. So yeah. What we're gonna do now, add event handler, make another event. We're just gonna be making constant events in this episode, and maybe if we have time, get to the files, hopefully. So let's make another event. We'll make a public void on block place event. We're gonna name it event. Also, a quick trick to import your things, you just as you're typing it, block place event, you can just press enter if you're using IntelliJ. You can be using Eclipse or IntelliJ, but I prefer IntelliJ. It just looks cleaner in my opinion. Alrighty, so block place event. We're basically going to do the exact same thing as here, just create a player variable, event.getPlayer. If player does not have permission, YouTube hubcore.admin, event.setCanceled true. Okay, so what we are going to do now is right now we're going to make a move event. So basically all hub cores, you don't really allow people to be falling in the void 24/7, so that's what we're going to basically do. We're going to make it so they can't fall in the void like consistently. So we're going to do public void on player move event, name it event once again, create a player variable, event.getPlayer. Okay, we're also going to make a location. Location is just going to get the player's location, obviously. So name it location. We're going to do player, get the player's location like so, and player.getLocation. Okay. So now what we're going to do is we're basically going to check the Y level of the player. We're going to do player.getWorld is equal to main.getServer.getWorlds.get0 and location dot get y is less than or equal to 70. Those basically make it so they cannot fall in the void. I mean, honestly, 70 is probably a little bit too much. So honestly, let's just make it so they can't fall past 0. Okay? So that, I think, will work. Let's just go like so. And if they do go past it, what we're going to do, we're going to do p player.teleport player.getWorld.get spawn location. We'll make the spawn location command sometime in the future. Also get worlds. Like so. Okay. So that should all work perfectly fine. So now what we're gonna do, we're gonna make it so basically mobs and anything like that cannot spawn because we don't want that. Add event handler, public void, public void on creature spawn. Creature spawn event. And event. Cancel the events. Cancel the event, that is. Basically, just make another event handler, public void on entity damage. Entity damage event. Name an event. It's kind of really repetitive, but it's the basics of a hub core. We'll start getting into the more in-depth stuff in the future. And I'm pretty sure you guys know what we're going to do now. We're going to cancel the event. Going to make another event handler, public void on weather change event. Cancel this. All right. So what we're gonna do, add event handler, public void on player pickup item, player pickup item event. Oops, that was already there. Okay. Just like so. Event.set canceled true. Now we're going to make it so their food level and health just does not change. So add event handler, public void on food level change event. And I did not import that one. Alright, we're going to make a player variable. And we're going to need to cast a player this time, because the reason why is event.getPlayer is not a thing, so we have to use the entity, and we don't put entity here. We have to do player and just cast a player because we're trying to get a player, not an entity. So that'll work perfectly fine. So we're going to do player that's set food level 20. Just basically make it so they don't lose food. Player that's set saturation 20.0F. Player dot set health 20.0. Then we can just cancel the event yet again, like so. Okay. So now we're gonna get into inventory click events. This is just gonna be a basic event that's gonna kind of help us in the future already. We're not actually going to make an inventory right now. We're just going to set up the listener for it. On inventory click event. So we're going to cancel the event. That is for sure, because we don't want them moving any items around in the inventory. And then what we're going to do is if event get who clicked is instance of player instance of player. There you go. You want to return if event dot get inventory dot get type dot equals inventory type. So if the type of the inventory that we're trying to get with this event, if it's equal to the type of a player's inventory, we're basically just gonna event.set cancel false. So we don't actually mess with move around stuff in the player's inventory because we want them to be able to do that. And what we're gonna do here actually, we're gonna do event.get current item is equal to null. Okay. So that's basically the things done. So what I'm gonna do is just I'm gonna check how long we've been recording for. We're recording already 16 minutes. All right, I think we might be able to start the files. It's a possibility. So let's try this, shall we? All right. So what I'm gonna do here, I'm gonna make a new class, or package any class. I'll name it utils.files. All right. We're gonna make an instance of the main class. Public files main. This is just what, like doing all my classes. You'll see that by the end of this tutorial. That this is kind of what I do. So we're gonna make a couple functions here. We're gonna do public void. I'm gonna make it so they can access it in all the classes that we want. Load config. And now what we're gonna do, we are going to go right here. We're gonna use a lombok for this. At getter, public file config file. Okay. And then we're gonna do another at getter. This one can be private because we don't really access this one from any other class. Actually, no, this one we're gonna access. Sorry, we're gonna access this one, but since we have, I'll just make them both public actually, because we might need to access both of them at times. You'll see why in the future. Public file configuration config. All right, so now that we have that done, we can go over the load config, and basically all we have to do is do if this.main, this just gets the main variable from this class, get data folder dot exists. So if it does not exist, we're gonna make that data folder. Get data folder dot make dirs. Alrighty, so we're gonna get the config file. We're gonna new file. We're gonna make it so it's in the directory of where the plugin is. And then we're gonna name that file. We can name it settings.yml. That's basically what it'll be. So if config file does not exist, we're basically gonna say we're gonna make it this.main.save resource settings.yml false. Okay. Get the config again. We're gonna get a YAML configuration. We're gonna load the configuration of the config file. All right. So that's basically all we have to do for this file. And now we gotta go back to the main class. And we're gonna go right here. We're gonna do at getter public files. Now wrong files. Make sure you import the right files, guys. It's this one right here. Now what we're gonna do, we're gonna go right here. We're gonna initiate files. Files equals do files. We gave it a parameter of main, so we have to make sure it has this, because this is the main class. And then what we're going to do, we're going to do files.load config. So that's basically going to load our config. And one more thing before I forget, new file inside of the resource folder. We're going to need to make the settings.yml. Just make it, leave it blank for now. Just, it needs to be there. Else it'll just pull a bunch of null pointer exceptions. And yeah, honestly, I think before I end off this episode, I will do one thing. And that one thing will be, I'll make an admin permission node, YouTube hub core .admin. Okay. So now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna make another class inside of the utils. Actually, before I do, just so I can admin permission. No, it just looks a lot cleaner in my opinion. Make a new class inside the utils package called utils. Do a main instance. Alrighty, get an instance of main and the constructor, all that good stuff. What I'm gonna need to do right now is do public static, and then it's going to be a string of admin underscore permission underscore node. This basically is going to make it so it's going to be less resource heavy on our hub core, because if I were to just read from the configuration file every single second in our events that we're checking for the permission node, it's just kind of resource heavy. So if you put the permission into memory basically when the server starts up, which you see in a sec, it's less resource heavy on the plugin, on the server, players less laggy, it's just better. So what we're going to do, we're going to do admin underscore permission underscore node equals main.get files .get config .get string admin permission node. Alrighty, and since we're here, I might as well just do this public static. Is it string? Wait, hold up. String? Yeah, no, it's gonna be string. So we're basically gonna make a chat color function. String return chat color dot translate alternate color codes. Boom. No, not string. We're gonna type string. And basically, there's an easy function for us, just like so. And then one more function that I would like to make inside of this utils class that I usually always do. Public static void debug. We're gonna do an object, and then we're gonna do an array of objects. So we do as many as we want. And we're gonna name a string. So we're gonna do if, I actually haven't made this yet, but I'm gonna do if debug message. And then we're gonna do for object string system.out.println. This is just how you print something, pretty basic. And there's a very good debug thing for us. For anything though, I'm just gonna do public static string, no, not string, boolean debug message. So there you go. And then I'm gonna do debug underscore message main.get files .get config .get string debug. So what is this basically doing? Oh, no, sorry, not get string. Get boolean. Okay. So what is this basically doing? We can do utils.debug now as our console logging system. We'll only be able to see this if this boolean that we're going to make right now debug mode. And then we're just gonna do debug. Let's name it false for now, because we don't actually need it up. But yeah. Okay, so there you go. And now, one last thing before we end off this episode. Since we just made the admin permission node, we can now replace this with utils.admin permission node. Same thing for here as well. Just like so. Alrighty. So that is going to be it for episode 1 of How to Make a Hub Core. Hope you guys enjoyed. It's already 25 minutes long, and this is going to be one good series. I hope you guys stick around, and I'll see you guys in the next video.